Okay, ladies and gentlemen, probably my favorite live stream of the week. We're going to go through and we are going to have our usual flock hangout. I think we're doing this every Sunday from here on out, where we're going to go ahead and we are essentially just going to hop in a live stream, hop in a live room and send out the link in the Discord to the site. So if you are a member of flockfantasy.com, you have the open invite right now. Come on this live stream. Ask us whatever you want to. I mean, last week we had like 10 people coming on. It was a whole lot of fun. And yeah, we can just talk anything Dynasty. If not, I can just sit here, hang out, answer questions in the chat. But yeah, before we get into it, drop a like on this, subscribe to the channel, of course, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you want to get my rankings, if you want to join the flock, come on the live stream with us, get all the premium content. You can find that on flockfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code FLOCK, and yours truly will go through and break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team in a podcast. But if you're wanting to get on this live stream, essentially go to the Discord, go to the Mason's Flock section, and then go to the live interviews. You're only going to see that tab if you are a member of flockfantasy.com and you have your role confirmed. But there, we sent the link out to StreamYard so you can be able to hop in. All you have to do is have your camera on. I don't want anybody without the camera coming in and say anything crappy. You're allowed to say something crappy if you're willing to put your face behind it. But yeah, let's see if we have any questions in the chat. We got Jason out here. Happy to see you. Got Mark Award out here. Of course, always happy to see you, my man. But Dang Shoot coming out with a donation. Thank you, says, traded Ramondre Stevenson and Jordan Addison away for Garrett Wilson. Who won the deal? It's a one quarterback, 10-team dynasty where our running backs were Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, Akers, Roschon Johnson. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Higgins, London, Burks, Christian Watson, Johnston, Rice, and Mims. So a couple different things. With this being a 10-team dynasty format, depth in general isn't going to matter as much as just getting the best asset in the deal. I mean, if we were playing in like a start 12-teamer, then at that point, yeah, I would probably have to say, okay, well, at the end of the day, if you're going to be able to get an extra starter, right, if you're going to be able to go through and start both Ramondre and Addison every single week, it's probably going to be hard to replace one of those guys. However, 10-team league, you have more than enough depth. I want the best asset. Give me Garrett Wilson. Right now, he's being drafted as like a borderline top 6 to 7 wide receiver on Underdog for this next season. The man's literally, 22 years old. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead. I think we are going to take Garrett Wilson there. Thank you so much, my man. But we have Dane hopping in here. Happy to see you, my man. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing great. I know you came in a little earlier. Was like, hey, we got to maybe.
Oh, yeah. I was sitting in my hot tub and I saw you went live, so I had to join.
I like the Pickens jersey. Big Steelers fan?
Oh, yeah, I am. Yep. Steelers and Seahawks.
With Pickett.
Yeah. What'd you say?
So what are the expectations with Pickett?
Oh, I'm saying he does better than he did last year. Definitely. I'm thinking Pickens grows a lot with him. And I'm just saying they finish top 5 in the conference. I'm gonna say that. They're definitely a playoff team.
The thing is, obviously, the AFC is just so brutal. But I mean, coaching staff's great. Obviously, you do have a quarterback going to year 2. Are you completely out on Deontay?
Kind of, but I hope that he does better than he did last year. I mean, he struggled with drops and he just wasn't getting touchdowns or anything like that. So right now I'm counting him out, but I'm hoping that he does better than he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted the hell out of him last year too, because I thought that I was like, okay, the last year Big Ben wasn't pretty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Big Ben was good in 2021. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, how much worse can Kenny Pickett be? Deontay Johnson had all the targets in the world. And then literally, like, Deontay was like the least efficient wide receiver in the entire NFL last year.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
But so hopefully it's a little bit better this next season. I just love Freiermuth. To be honest with you, man, I think really so many people disrespect Freiermuth for what he's done like year 1 and year 2.
He's great. Yeah.
I mean, I tweeted that out like a couple days ago. I tweeted, I was like, why the hell would anybody go through and like draft Dalton Kincaid where he's going? And
I saw that tweet. Yeah.
It's like it seems like you're kind of wanting him to be Pat Freiermuth, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally get that. I've been
Hey,
drafting him.
we have a donation coming out. You want to help answer this? It's Sean asking, try to move Derrick Henry. What's his value right now?
What's his value? You mean
Yeah,
like
what do you think with Derrick Henry?
Pick wise? What is this for Dynasty?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I mean, he's getting old, not very valuable anymore. I mean, he's probably only got like 1 or 2 years left in my eyes.
If I had to go through and like put a pick to it, if it's super flex, I would say like Derrick Henry is probably the 109 drop off. Like, would you rather have Zay Flowers or Derrick Henry in Dynasty?
I'm going Zay Flowers.
Okay, well, what about drop it down a little bit more? What about who's your 10th favorite rookie out of like the top 9 guys? Do you do like Charbonnet, Levis, Kincaid? Who's your 10th guy?
I'm gonna go Charbonnet, even though I'm a big Seahawks fan. Like, I got my Seahawks sticker on the wall there. I love Kenneth Walker. I'd hate to see him have snaps taken away from him, but I think Charbonnet is definitely some good talent. So I'll put him there at 10th.
Okay, so are you on Zach Charbonnet or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry.
Okay, I just pulled up Charbonnet and Derrick Henry on flockfantasy.com to see where they're ranked.
Yeah.
So consensus, like expert ranking, Zach Charbonnet running back 19, Derrick Henry running back 20. So literally back to back.
Okay.
Personally, I have Zach Charbonnet ahead of Derrick Henry as well. I mean, the thing with Charbonnet is he literally just checks every single box you could look for.
Like, he does.
I mean, but here, real quick, we got another person coming in. We got ATC. How are you doing, my man?
Good. How are you, Mason?
Good. Thank you for joining. Where are you calling in from?
Syracuse, New York.
The furthest north I've ever been is North Carolina. So,
oh wow, all right.
At least that side. I've been to Seattle, but obviously other side of the country. But I'm assuming New York's probably really nice. But got anything you want to talk about, my man?
I'm actually just studying fantasy football right now. I have a let's see if you can see this.
Man, whenever I was in school, specifically before college, because obviously college lecture, you just bring your laptop everywhere. I had journals and journals of just like every one of my rosters written out. And then like all day I would just sit there and like come up with like hypothetical trades like that I could make. I get it.
That's actually what is a good thing too, because I need a trade because I'm in a dynasty league. But that's just the depth charts for the NFL right now.
That is crazy, my man. Baby Yoda, happy to see you back on. Are we going with the LaCroix gang? Or
we are. I don't know. Not a sponsor. I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, I had a housewarming party yesterday, so it went out and got some drinks. Costco had a case of these for sale. I was like, I've never had a LaCroix before. Got a case, pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. How's everyone doing? Good to see everyone.
Pretty good. Happy to have you back on. Real quick, we have a question coming out from Keegan just before I lose it. Is Love worth the 707 in a 12-team Dynasty Superflex? I'm assuming this is a startup. Maybe. Hey, I know you're a Packers fan, right? So I'm assuming yes.
I mean, it would depend on who's all going around him in a super flex. I mean, 7th round, that's not. You could do worse. I'm a little more optimistic on Love. It's hard as a Packers fan because, again, you wonder what could have been had they moved up for someone different. But again, a week ago I was on here and I was telling he came out Sunday night and was slinging it. He was slinging it against the Eagles, and so he'll have help. They drafted tight ends. Packers historically have had a solid offensive line. They have Dylan and Aaron Jones who are going to help him out, take some of that pressure off of him, and they drafted that kid Reed, I think, in the 2nd round. And so he'll have Watson, he'll have Dobbs, he'll have Reed. So they got him some help. So hopefully that'll take some of the pressure off his shoulders in his first season starter.
Yeah, I just pulled up where he was like ranked consensus on flockfantasy.com, and he's 59 consensus, like for 12-team Superflex. So that's way earlier than the 707. So I mean, I think if you're getting them 7th round, probably a pretty good spot.
All right, hold on one second.
I gotta say this. So I've been on cloud nine all day because this morning my girlfriend and I got up at my former girlfriend got up at 30 in the morning, and I proposed, and she said yes.
Hell yes, my man! Congrats. That's awesome news.
Congratulations.
Find yourself a girl who lets you come on one of these live streams on one of the most important days of her life.
Yeah, man, that is awesome. I'm super, super happy for you.
Thank you.
That made my day, my man. The fact that you're able to come on and share that great news with us, that's really cool.
Yeah. She's listening in. There's her own.
Well, I'm jealous, my man. But real quick, let me introduce Ace. You got any? Did you get engaged today? Any good news?
Ledesma, last name's Ledesma. I didn't get much good news, but congratulations to my boy, Baby Yoda.
Thank you.
Caught that when I was coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I won't be able to stay on too long here, but I just wanted to hop on and say hello to everyone. If this happens next week, I'll definitely hop on then too. But I just wanted to ask a quick question. I'll save my Kyler Murray Moneyball argument for next week. But I know a lot of probably people from the community find themselves, whether it's a one quarterback league or super flex, they find themselves with the JSN versus Gibbs conundrum. And I kind of just wanted your thoughts. If you find yourself in that spot, I've kind of looked into it this week, and a lot could change from now until September. But I find myself, definitely viewing JSN as the safer pick, the safer option. It's just, if we go back before the draft, right? We had analysts and even people from the Dynasty community raising some very legitimate concerns about Jahmyr Gibbs. He's 5'9". He's under 200 pounds. People were making the Kamara, Aaron Jones comp, and that's just not accurate. Like, the closest you could probably get is Aaron Jones. I've been watching Aaron Jones for years now. Aaron Jones is a little bulkier. He's not. It's a different body type. Even someone like Austin Eckler, who's flirting with that 200-pound line, you see Austin Eckler on the field. He has a bulkier build to him, as opposed to Gibbs, who has a bit of a leaner build. My only argument is, obviously what has changed, before the draft is obviously the Lions and taking a shot on him at 12 in the draft capital. Aside from that, unless Gibbs pulls a Jordan and gets in the weight room hard from now until September, nothing much has changed aside from the draft capital. And again, I just wanted your thoughts on how significant that can be, because the Lions have almost set him up, at least for fantasy purposes, to potentially be a bust for fantasy if he doesn't meet that expectation. Like, do you guys have like ceiling comps for him, mid comps, or floor comps for someone like Jahmyr Gibbs?
Well, I think you do have to move him up whenever you go 12 overall in the NFL draft, like, especially in today's age. I 100% agree with you. I think given the BMI issue and the overall size concern, he's never going to turn into a back that's seeing 20 plus touches a game, So I definitely agree in that he's not like a full 100% can't miss guy. I do think probably the ceiling's a little bit capped as well. In terms of Gibbs versus JSN, it's kind of a boring answer, but I think it's probably dependent on your league format. Like, I play in a lot of leagues where you have to start like 11 or 12 guys, right? And it's like a 12-team format where you're having to start, or you get to start 6 to 7 wide receivers each and every week. So in the majority of leagues that I play in like that, and also because I'm a big Jackson Smith and Jigba fanboy, and it was more of a selection with my heart rather than my brain, I personally took Jackson Smith and Jigba. But one thing that I've realized after like interacting with this many people and like looking at so many Dynasty teams is a lot of people don't play in dynasty formats that are that deep. And instead, there are a lot of leagues like that you go through and you start, say, 2 wide receivers and then 2 flexes. You know what I mean? And you can only start up to 4 wide receivers. You can only start up to 5 wide receivers. They're in a format like that. I probably go Gibbs, but it's more just a skill positional thing because I think both of them are just phenomenal prospects. But usually running back, you're less likely to get a bust if they have the draft capital, because the main thing that matters is just the fact that they're able to go through and get the opportunity. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and you have to think, Lockett, is he 30, 31? Lockett? He's one maybe like injury away from JSN stock going up a little bit. But I definitely get where you're coming from about the Lions taking him at 12. That's a huge deal.
With that being said about JSN over Jahmyr Gibbs, we don't need the Lockett injury for Jackson Smith and Jigba to just take this league by storm with the talent he is. So, the injury to Lockett, or the possible injury to Lockett or someone on that depth chart could skyrocket JSN, but he could do it himself as well for multiple years.
When you have Chris Olave and Wilson sitting down in front in an interview and talking about JSN the way they did, and
right.
Then Chris Olave and Wilson have the rookie years they did, I mean, it's hard not to at least glance
Exciting.
And be
exciting.
Like, yeah.
Well, real quick, 2 things. 1, Herbert, I see you backstage, but if you want to join, make sure your camera's on. I don't think it's on. And 2, we have a couple donation questions. Let's pull these up. Love to hear your thoughts. Zdrep says 12-team super flex, half PPR, half tight end premium. At quarterback, I have Allen, Burrow, Daniel Jones, Sam Howell. My running back room is trash, and I want to move off one of the quarterbacks to fill the gap and help me complete. Any suggestions for a starting point? Do y'all have anything? I mean, in my mind, obviously, like the easy answer is sell Sam Howell, but in reality, it's much easier said than done. Like, are you really getting anything for Sam Howell?
Right. I personally like Daniel Jones a lot. I'm not moving Allen for unless I love the deal. But if I have to move off of Daniel Jones to help my running back room, I'd be willing to do that if I can get a kind of quarterback 2 replacement. Maybe somebody a little bit younger. A little bit older than Daniel Jones. And just to get somebody in that running back room, you're probably not going to get too much if you get the quarterback replacement. If you're good just getting rid of Daniel Jones altogether, you probably get a better running back upgrade. But I would try to keep that quarterback 2 locked in as well. You probably want to stay there.
So he has Daniel Jones as his QB2?
So he has Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, and then Sam Howell.
Oh, Joe Burrow as well. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Burrow. So he's loaded at quarterback. If you were going to sell Daniel Jones, like if I'm just going to pull this up on the site, like the running backs that are in a comparable range to him, I mean, they're pretty damn good if you wanted to go down that road. And obviously, if you were wanting to go through and get a running back you would feel comfortable starting and not just like a depth piece, like Daniel Jones would probably be the guy to sell in comparison. Like if I'm looking at the running backs next to Daniel Jones in our rankings, and we have Daniel Jones, I'll do my rankings instead of the consensus expert. I have Daniel Jones right in front of Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris, and right behind like Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey.
I would be curious to look at a recent startup draft on a 12-team Superflex league and see who are the ones and maybe trying to get one of those.
I'm on this.
I've seen Daniel Jones go as early as like a late 3rd in startup drafts. So if you're not a Daniel Jones believer, now would be the time to cash in. I know he just got that contract, but I think that contract is one of those weird, like they're able to get out of it. The Giants are able to get out of it after 2 years, I think, 1 or 2 years. It sounded like it was similar to that of Jared Goff's contract. So if you're able to cash in for that Daniel Jones value now, again, if you don't, as a real NFL quarterback, And you may be looking at one of those situations where last year was kind of his ceiling year, maybe having one of these outliers. But again, quarterbacks are very valuable in super flex leagues. So I personally traded Jones away, Jones and like a 2024 second and I went and got Jalen Waddle because I could afford it.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
And I got, Daniel Jones, I got in a trade last year from a manager who didn't believe in him as kind of a throw-in piece, as you would say, like a car freshener piece. And I cashed in. So.
Well, that's awesome. Here, one other question we have. This one coming out from Sam, a massive donation. Thank you, my man. Says, who could I sell Brock Purdy or Jared Goff for in terms of running back value in a 10-team Superflex start 12, where we have to start 3 running backs? Those 2 Mahomes are my starting level quarterbacks. Rookie draft starts June 14th. We have pick 5, pick 7. We may go quarterback at 5 and wide receiver at 7. Real quick before we answer this, I'd say if you're playing in a start 12 10-team Superflex league, so you're going to be starting 10 skill positional guys and only 2 quarterbacks. And on average, in a 10-team Superflex league, every team's going to be able to have 3 to 4 starters. You're not really going to be getting much for Goff or Brock Purdy. Like, in reality, like those tier 4-ish quarterbacks, it's just very difficult to get any realistic return for them in that format.
Yeah, maybe try to convince one of those, especially like obviously it's situation dependent, but maybe try to get one of those older running backs if you're a contender. I don't know. It's so tough. I know even in a 12-team Superflex league, even the Purdy owner he's having a little trouble trying to figure out, well, is he actually the starter? Is what's going to happen with Trey Lance? And so,
yeah. If I'm looking at where they're ranked consensus on the site right now, in comparison to other running backs in this format in particular, I think honestly, you probably have to move the quarterbacks down because these Superflex rankings for the site are for 12-team Superflex leagues. But I mean, Brock Purdy's down there alongside guys like, AJ Dillon, James Cook, Joe Mixon, David Montgomery. You probably actually find an owner to go through and take the bait there if you really wanted a running back like that. But honestly, what I would probably look to do is take one of the quarterbacks and package it together with the pick to try to move up. Like if we could take like Brock Purdy in the 107 and move up and get like the 104, get the 106, I would like that a little bit more because like if you're looking at 7, we're probably having to take like Jordan Addison, or Quentin Johnston. Whereas if we move 7, which is Quentin Johnston as well as Brock Purdy, and we go up and we get pick 6 or pick 4, we get Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably how I would approach it, especially if you were wanting like a running back value. If we could go like pick 7 and Brock Purdy and get back pick 4 in return and then grab Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you could. Do y'all think that's a realistic deal? Like you could convince someone to pull the trigger on?
Yeah, you'd probably have to. And again, if you believe and you are at peace that, even if Purdy becomes the starter and you're at peace with selling him away now, yeah, probably try to do that sooner rather than later, just because there's still value in the unknown for Purdy, especially with the Trey Lance situation.
So do y'all, who do you expect to be the 49er starter this next year?
All my Trey Lance stock, so it's definitely going to be 100% Trey Lance.
I don't know. They're talking really nicely about Darnold there, so that would talk about. Well, listen. I mean, if the 49ers are trying to get out of Trey Lance, there's some teams out there who, they have options. It's just, what does the NFL think of Trey Lance? And I don't think they've seen enough, or the owners know what they know, and so depending on how they view Trey Lance. But would anyone be surprised if Trey Lance got traded to someone like the Vikings? If he got traded to someone like the Falcons? If he got one of these teams that are either not in a long-term secure situation at quarterback, or who are testing someone someone this year, kind of like the Falcons or even the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are in a position to make a trade like that, but it's tough. I got sniped last year in a startup draft, and I really wanted Lance at the one. What was it? I had the 5th pick, and then he almost got to me in the 3rd round of a startup, and the guy before him took him, and I'm like, no, I got sniped. Looking back now, I'm happy I got sniped.
Yeah. If he was there, I would have been doing everything I could trade up to grab him last year. I mean, if I saw him that far back, I'd be going up trying to get him in the 4th, 3rd round.
The thing is, it's one of those, you don't know what you don't know. And it was one of those, it was my first time playing Dynasty. I didn't know that was an option. Had it been, I would have traded him. But I ended up getting Mark Andrews in the 3rd round. So I'm okay with that.
Oh, definitely.
Last year. I'd personally be surprised if Trey Lance got traded at all. Just given what they traded to get him, what they invested into him. I don't see how they could move. They would have to be accepting a loss at that point if they do trade him, wouldn't they? Because they're not getting what they paid for him.
Oh, see, I'm with you on that, and that's why, like, if you look at the investment into Trey Lance, they traded 3 pretty good first-round picks to get him. You know what I mean?
Why? The thing that bothers me is the owner could have come out when he was asked who's your starting quarterback. He could have said, he could have said nothing. He didn't have to answer the question. He could have given one of those vague, all we believe in the talent in the quarterback room right now, and it's going to be tough competition. But that's probably an answer that I won't have I'll give you a clearer answer in August. But the fact that he came out and it was just very damning to Trey Lance's case.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would even if you didn't like the guy, even if you didn't believe in guy, just for value's sake in the eyes of other teams that may potentially, be looking, it just doesn't benefit you to say that. So I don't I don't understand.
Yeah. If I had to sit here and just cope with Trey Lance and all my teams, if I was trying to do mental gymnastics to make it make sense, right? You'd say it would be a slap in the face to go through and after Brock Purdy has an incredible run his rookie season and then has a devastating injury, for him to come out and say, oh yeah, Brock Purdy, that guy who was great for us last year, but suffered an injury. Yeah. We're out on him. Who cares about him? We're back to Lance. You know what I mean? Maybe it would be really crappy if you didn't. Of course, I'm doing mental gymnastics here, but still.
I don't want to be gross here. 12-team Superflex. Would you rather have if you had Trey Lance right now and could go trade him straight up for Daniel Jones? Are you taking Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I have Daniel Jones. So if I'm looking at my rankings, I have.
Doesn't that feel gross though?
But people have Lance way lower than that. I have Lance 49 overall in my rankings. I have Daniel Jones 39, but having them there, people scream at me that Lance is way too high. You know what I mean? So I'll say Daniel Jones, but the gap that I have between them will be closer than most people. Right now, if you look at underdog drafts, Lance is literally my most drafted player on underdog. He's going as he's going after Taysom Hill in the drafts. You know what I mean? He's going almost 100 picks behind Anthony Richardson.
What is the ideal thing? So I'll ask you, Mason, because I know you're a big Trey Lance fan. And part of my fear with Anthony Richardson as someone who has the 102 this year in a rookie draft is that it's going to turn into a Trey Lance situation. Because if you're someone with Lance's skill set a couple of years ago, who better than the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan to go play for? That's just such an ideal situation. So again, with Richardson this year, I told myself I'm not going to draft him unless he goes to the ideal situation, which was the Colts. In your opinion, this year, what is the ideal situation for Trey Lance? Do you think his value, it serves his value better to stay in San Francisco or to get traded?
Stay if he's going to start. Of course, ideal situation is they announced him as starting quarterback in training camp. Mm-hmm. He's good to go. 49ers are a great football team, regardless of his play or not. He runs the football a lot and he scores a lot of fantasy points. In my mind, that's the ideal scenario. I do think that they would be able to sell him for something. So if they were to start Brock Purdy, I think he does get traded. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and this is what I know, it's probably just horrible to hear me say this every single video and every single live stream, but I think it's very telling of like what NFL teams do with this, players with this much invested into them. Like since the year 2000, there have been two quarterbacks selected inside the top 3 picks of the NFL draft to start fewer than 40 games. There's Jamarcus Russell, RG3. That started like 25 and 33. One of them derailed by injuries. Jamarcus Russell, the biggest bust in NFL history. So if Lance only starts like 3 or 4 games in his NFL career, he will go down as the biggest bust ever. You know what I mean? Like, so in reality, like I think those quarterbacks that are selected top 3, they get the Bortles treatment, they get the Mitchell Trubisky treatment. Generally, they're allowed to fail. Like, you know what I mean? They're allowed to fail a couple of years over.
Yeah.
So historically speaking, he starts and he has rushing upside, but I kind of view him in the same reason everybody's super excited about Richardson now is the same reason I was super excited about Lance 2 years ago. You know what I mean? No idea if Richardson's going to be a good real life quarterback, but he's going to get in there. He's going to run the ball a ton. He has job security based on his draft capital. So he's exciting, you know?
Yeah.
We knew today that Trey Lance was the starter and he was good to go health-wise. Who do you want straight up, Trey Lance or Anthony Richardson?
Oh, yeah, Anthony Richardson. That, especially because if you think about it, like say both of them come out and they're like the quarterback 10 and quarterback 11 this next year. What are their costs next season? Like next offseason?
Average goes up.
Yeah, you know, like Anthony Richardson will be a first-round starter pick. Trey Lance probably a third, you know? So
Anthony Richardson's situation, I think, is very it's one of these rare situations. It sounds like people are saying, well, the project and that, you know, it sounds like he was in a similar situation to that of like Josh Allen, where they didn't have a lot of, you know, like they didn't grow up as like this huge like prospect. It sounds like Anthony Richardson kind of had to fight for some of his opportunities. But the biggest thing I'm hearing with him is his arm talent. He's making some of these throws, last year, which obviously the argument is that the very next throw, you're like, what are you doing? But the throw before was just incredible. But his pocket movement, someone who's watched Aaron Rodgers now and don't hear what I'm not comparing Anthony Richardson to Aaron Rodgers. That's not what I'm saying at all. Aaron Rodgers has had such great feel for the pocket. He wasn't the fastest guy. He was agile enough to move within the pocket. So he would feel the line coming in, move up, slide to his left or slide to his right because he could throw it. He had the arm talent to do it. There's a couple of clips, several examples of this. Anthony Richardson and some of his highlight reel and some what people are arguing for him is that he has a similar feel in the pocket and he has enough athleticism to either rush out of it or move up in the pocket, and because of his arm talent, buy him enough time to make a throw a little bit late because of his arm talent. So he's a very interesting prospect. I'm excited because, again, Indy was the place that I thought was going to be a really good fit with him, as opposed to going to play for the Raiders or something where it's like, oh my God, he's not going to be, like, the coaching staff is going to eat him.
Bury him.
Yeah, bury him. Yeah.
Yeah. That's also something that, like, I don't want to say I learned this, but I used to have a buddy like way, way, way back in the day in like 2015 that I talked about with Dynasty football all day through GroupMe. And he used to talk about like, oh, if a player goes to a crap franchise, like that historically has been very bad at producing players. Like if a quarterback's drafted to the Jets, you don't draft that quarterback. And then I used to think that he was like an idiot, you know, and I'm like, oh man, it doesn't matter. You're just telling me the color of the helmet. How's that going to impact their fantasy points? But after playing for long enough, I'm like, okay, yeah, no. If quarterback gets drafted by the Jets, you probably want to be avoiding that player. If someone goes to the Eagles, a pretty good organization is probably going to work out, or they'll have a better chance to work out, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the curse, you know. A lot of these franchises, you can't help but to feel that way, you know. Even someone like as talented historically as Watson going to the Browns, you know. I mean, the Browns have turned it around in the last couple of years, but it didn't look too hot there with Mayfield. A couple of years ago, Mayfield and Odell were still there, you know, and that experiment was a bust. So,
isn't that so crazy? Like, I feel like the NFL at times is like a soap opera. We literally had like Baker Mayfield and Odell in Cleveland, and everybody, including myself, I don't want to act like I wasn't. Everybody freaking out as if this was like going to elevate Baker to be a top 3 quarterback, and this was going to change the Browns, you know.
I drafted Odell in a redraft that year in the first round because I bought into the hype.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the wide receiver, you know, number 3, number 2. Yes, Baker.
Who can blame you?
And it was just I think Landry got more points that season than Odell did.
Yeah. What do you think Odell's going to do in Baltimore?
Exactly what Yoda just said. Wide receiver 3.
I think Odell being in Baltimore is going to open things up for Andrews and is going to open up some things for the other receivers. It's hard. I like Odell as a person. I think you like seeing him play. It sucks seeing him go down in the Super Bowl like that, especially after catching a touchdown. And so it's just really hard given the age to really see something great this year.
Well, I'm very biased. I am an Odell fanboy. Like the original intro to the channel, like I don't know if y'all watched much YouTube like 5 years ago, but like 5 years ago, everybody would have like a intro to their YouTube channel to make it look professional. In reality, like you can't do it now with how the algorithms are. But I had like a custom thing made of like the goose, like doing the classic Odell catch with like the commentary over it. Like I love Odell. I have a Giants jersey for Odell, and I've actually just ordered some frames for these jerseys. I'm going to build this out and then like trying to mix up like the couple settings that I have in this room. That way, like it's not the same backdrop for the video every single time. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have an Odell Giants jersey up soon. But yeah, I haven't drafted like Odell's going pretty damn high in underdog drafts right now. I have barely taken him.
Yeah. Again, it was heartbreaking seeing him getting hurt in the Super Bowl again because the guy, you know, finally gets his moment and is able to be on a team that's a contender, and for him to go down like that in a game like that was really sad. And I still remember actually the flock intro you were talking about. That's Chris Collinsworth, right? Where
yes, sir.
That was an amazing catch, and yeah.
Flock back in those days. Here and there. Yeah. Helped me build my dynasty teams. You actually broke down one of my teams not too long ago, and you were like, you were saying how it's a good team, and then you went to my picks and you seen that I had Bijan and a stack of other picks, and you're like, oh god, this team's gonna be nasty. I was actually able to flip some of them players in my depth chart, and I got Tyreek Hill added to that team. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
That's awesome. Do y'all think that Tyreek's for real, that he's going to retire at in 2 to 3 years, whenever the hell he said?
Bag. Yeah, he won't retire if they throw him a bag.
It depends.
Well, like he's, I think given his age, Tyreek strikes me as kind of one of these guys who's like a savant, and he doesn't need. I think he's done enough in his career and is smart enough where he can go get a bag outside of the NFL. Like as a commentator, as a coach, it sounds like there's other things he wants to do outside of football, and I think he has the people around him. And he just kind of just strikes me as that kind of personality where, yeah, in 3 years, even if he's still able to perform, he'd rather go out on top as opposed to, you know, being forced or to leave the game, you know.
I changed my job 3 years ago to take care of my body, actually, so I understand that as well.
What did you change your job from?
My girlfriend makes pretty good money, so.
There you
Yeah, no,
I mean, because Tyreek has always been the fastest guy on the field, and if he doesn't see himself doing that in 3 years, and he's always been the fastest guy on the field, he might not want to play in the NFL where he's not the guy, the speedster on the field.
The Tyreek is so interesting in that like he literally came from nowhere. Like whenever he broke out, like let me pull up his college stats.
Wasn't he drafted in like the 4th or 5th round?
Yeah, I think he was a 5th round pick. And
if
you look at his like quote unquote metrics profile coming out of school, you would have never guessed in a million years. Like he played it like I believe Western Alabama as well, like a super small school. I can't even find the stats there. The only thing I can find on Tyreek Hill's stats right now on Sports Reference is Oklahoma State, 12 games, like 281 receiving yards and like 5. Is this even the right? Like, yeah, 500 rushing yards. Like it's the weirdest thing ever. Let me see if I can go to West Alabama and figure.
Miami's my team, and I won't draft Tyreek, actually. I don't really like him where he's going.
Interesting. If Tyreek gets drafted by a team like the Browns or the Jets, is it a different story? Are we looking back at Tyreek's career?
100%. And this is something that I would have said, like, if you would have asked this question, like, say, 5 years ago, I'd be like, no, Tyreek Hill's going to be Tyreek Hill no matter what. You know what I mean? Maybe he's a little bit worse because he doesn't play with Patrick Mahomes. But I bet that there were a lot of teams, a lot of players that go to like the Jets or something, or the Browns, fill in bad organization, that are washed out of the league and never get a fair shot, and they could have been the next Tyreek Hill. And we just don't know about them. You know what I mean?
When you first started, he kind of played. So when you started seeing highlights of Tyreek Hill, and you're like, wow, who's this kid in Kansas City? It's kind of like Andy Reid kind of saw that talent and used him kind of as a gadget player, because you saw some of those like punt kick return. They'd have him on a sweep, and you'd be like, "Oh my god,
he's gone!"
Yeah, this guy's so fast. He makes fast people look not fast. So
I love that line.
Yeah.
After his first season, I am pulling it up right now, 2016. He had only had 83 targets, but he just went nuts. In 83 targets, he had like 9 touchdowns, 860 yards. So like the entire offseason, all I would do and like back in like 2016, 2017 is from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I was listening to a fantasy football podcast. Like I probably listened to 20 different fantasy football podcasts just every single day. And every podcast, the biggest debate was, is Tyreek Hill good? Is he going to repeat? Is he good this next season? It was like the most polarizing thing ever after 2016. And to be honest, obviously I wasn't doing anything. Like I wasn't on YouTube then. If I was, I probably would have been one of the dumb people saying like, oh, he's not going to repeat. He's going to fall back down.
I was the same way. I didn't think he was going to either.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I definitely like, the thing is like, how do you find the next guy like that? You know what I mean?
Well, historically too, those guys that pop on your screen are so electric. Historically have had trouble staying relatively healthy. And Tyreek has had his moments where he's questionable this week, or he's doubtful, or but given his career, he's been able to stay relatively healthy and win you some weeks here. So
yeah, that's a really good point. And I live in Texas, so like now that the Spurs are getting Wemby, like I'm sure y'all saw that, like the giant 7'4", like Kevin Durant guy. Was pumped, and I was talking to my grandpa. I was like, I feel like with those guys, it's always can they stay healthy? Like they're like a lot of freaks, but are they going to be available?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Well, I think I mentioned earlier, but a guy that I went out to trade for Jalen Waddle. He kind of just popped off the screen. I don't think he has the as electric of speed of Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. But it's Jalen Waddle's almost kind of, at least for me, kind of that second coming. And I actually don't think Jalen Waddle has hit his ceiling yet in fantasy. And there's, Tua was out last year, and Jalen Waddle was able to put up the numbers he did, and Bridgewater in there for a couple of games. And if Tua is able to stay healthy here under that Mike Daniels offense, they give him opportunities, and I think Tyreek helps Jalen Waddle. He'll take some attention away. He takes some attention away from Jalen Waddle. But again, if you see any kind of decline in Tyreek Hill in the next couple of years too, it helps Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I had a lot of people getting mad at me because I said that I wouldn't be surprised if in 2024 or 2025, Waddle leapfrogs Tyreek Hill. And everybody was all pissed. I was like, Waddle will be stepping into his prime. Tyreek's going to be closing in 29, 30.
Yeah,
I could see a world where Waddle's the wide receiver one over Tyreek eventually.
He gets the ball, and he has. I'm a huge soccer fan, so I always say, I don't know if you all play soccer or familiar with soccer at all, but they always have that Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo comparison. And my thing is, Ronaldo is this physical specimen that you can create in a laboratory, and he's the perfect soccer player. But when Messi has the ball and on his feet, I have never been more scared of any other player, because he'll make something out of nothing. And that's what I see. Those are the similarities I see between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They'll get the ball, and as an opposing, if you're rooting for the other team, you're like, okay, stop him, bring him down, like don't give him space, because they can just pop one off. He did it against the Bills and the Packers this year, and I'm just like, wow, okay.
They can turn a screen pass into a 60-yard touchdown real quick.
Yeah, and they don't even look like they're running that fast, and they're I just, again, like,
if you were on the field, you'd see it.
Like, wow, like it doesn't even look. Yeah,
I would love to race one of them. You know what I mean? Just to get a real sense, like when you're hauling ass and trying your fastest, like you would feel fast too, and then you look over and they've doubled the distance you've gone.
Yeah. I think they could probably beat me if I ran as fast as I could, they could probably beat me just by speed walking. So
I seen the video of Tyreek Hill racing, I think it was Ocho Cinco, and he gave him a pretty good head start. I think I'd probably need about 100 yards to beat him in a 100-yard race.
And even maybe you're looking over your shoulder just to
still right.
Fellas, I gotta head out here. I gotta go have a sip of whiskey with my new fiance here. Always a pleasure.
That's all. I'm super happy for you, my man. Congrats, celebrate, and made my day that you're able to share that with us. That's awesome.
Hey, I wanted to thank you again for doing this. This is such a cool thing for you to do for the people who have decided to sign up to that mother flocker tier. And so, yeah, if you all do this again next week, I'll hop on for a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely gonna try to do this every single Sunday, my man. I'll be better. I need to eventually pick like an exact time saying, hey, we're doing this every Sunday at this time, Mm-hmm. Eventually I'll do that. I think once the football season gets here, we can kind of like do this while the games go off, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think that would be fun. But
there's more nuance to these conversations as opposed to you getting bombarded with comments of like 12-team super flex or so and so. There's more nuance to these conversations. So
yeah,
all right,
that's awesome. Well, I'll see you guys. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Yep.